Jesus Christ, why are you guys spamming? Anyway, Blaire White, arguably the second largest transgender political YouTuber on the platform, just under our queen, who I bow and swear loyalty to and have bent the knee to multiple times, the queen of Breadtube, who we all swear to protect, ContraPoints, who apparently will be hitting 1 million subs before Blaire's. Thank fucking God. Thank fucking God. Blaire White makes videos like this. Lately, she's been making videos calling out different predators in the makeup community. I guess like Shane Dawson because he fucked his cat and is a pedophile or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Jeffree Star being a monster. But on top of that, which has propelled her into a significant amount of popularity, look at that. 2 million, 1 million views. God, imagine one day I'll get that kind of viewership. She also does a lot of videos shitting on trans people. And that's pretty much it. That's most of her content. Most of her content is shitting on trans people. Now, granted, look, we have one about Caitlyn Bennett here, at least. I mean, hey, look, a video shitting on Caitlyn Bennett back when it was popular to do so and not at all politically motivated because everybody hated Caitlyn Bennett because she was such a joke. Who would have thought? Anyway, most of her content is basically what you'd expect to have pulled out of your average 15-year-old white transphobic boy's head. You know, oh, look at this one. I'm a predator, but it's okay because I'm trans. Then a fake apology video. Videos about drag kids, which are like probably one of the fucking most like craziest wedge way out there unimportant issues in regards to the trans community as a whole that is used as ammo against the entire trans community. Talking to a detransitioner, talking about a disturbing LGBT lesson for kids by, oh, look at these drag queens, guys, look how scary. Yeah, big, like a very small niche. Yeah. Finally talking things out with Trisha Paytas. I don't give a shit about that. Exposing TikTok predators, following a transgender pedophile's makeup tutorial, because that's what you do when when you expose a transgender pedophile. You milk it and make videos where you follow their makeup tutorials. That's what you do. Reacting to trans people who hate me, which is basically just trans people in the thumbnail, trans people who maybe have like weird looking hair or maybe don't pass too well, all that kind of stuff, you know. And then a bunch of other stuff like, oh, I transitioned at age 10, talk with a trans teen. Holy shit, she passes well.
So, how old were you?
Holy shit. Well, hey, this is what happens if you get to be put on puberty blockers, like is recommended by doctors for transgender youths. This is what happens when you get to be put on hormone blockers. Jesus Christ. Stop, I'll game end? What? That's a demonstration of why puberty blockers are good and important for young trans people to be to have access to, with the discretion of a doctor, of course. But yeah, I don't really know what the intentions of Blaire White are when she makes this kind of content. My assumption, for a while I thought she was like a grifter who just doesn't really believe any of this shit and hates trans people. But then I watched her video, or Calvin's end of this video, where she and Calvin are validating having to pass is generally cringe, though, especially coming from a cis dude. I'm not going to lie. I don't think commenting on the passability of a young trans person and emphasizing how important it is to have access to hormones is like a worthwhile topic to explore. I don't know. I don't think it's as weird as it's being made out to be. If I was saying, oh my god, she's so hot, or some shit, then it would be fucking weird, but I don't know. You can separate those points? I guess. Let me clarify. Maybe I worded it badly. The point that I'm trying to make is, this young trans woman passes extremely well, mostly or in part because she had access to hormone blockers at a young age, which is recommended by doctors. It's part of the procedure. Hormone blockers are safe and recommended for young kids experiencing gender dysphoria, and that's a good thing. So maybe I worded it weirdly, but the point that I was making was, or trying to illustrate, was that it is important for young trans people to have access to hormone blockers if they wish to have it. Anyway, new video she made. I watched the first minute of it to get an idea of whether or not it's worth covering, and please. Wait, I already had it set up. Never mind. It's the truth about Trump and the trans community. So if you know anything about politics, you will be aware that Trump has been very anti-trans. One of the first things when he was in the race before he got elected, he argued that he would be extremely pro-LGBT, that he would protect LGBT people from those that want to hurt them and take away their rights and kill them and all those things, right? So he put himself up as like this alt-Republican, pro-LGBT, like even the LGBT people I'll protect, all that kind of stuff. And people assumed, a lot of dumb people, assumed that he was like pro-trans, pro-LGBT, all that kind of stuff. As it turned out, when he said, I'll protect you from those that want to hurt you, he meant, I'll protect you from Muslims. And that's it. Sometimes he'll protect them from Muslims. That's like radical Muslims, I guess. Like that's what he meant. It wasn't so much as a declaration that he will protect LGBT people. It was more so using LGBT people as ammo against Muslims because he's Islamophobic. Anyway, obviously, once he got into the White House, there's been a myriad of things that Trump and his administration have done to attack transgender people. Many of them I'll probably have to recite later in this video to debunk the claim she's going to make in the next 14 minutes. For example, right when he got into office, there was a trans military ban. Recently, he went to the Supreme Court and asked if there was a way that his administration could restrict the ability for LGBT people to adopt children. He just recently rolled back a bunch of laws that would make it so that medical workers cannot provide or cannot refuse to supply healthcare or any type of care to an LGBT person. Although that was done federally, I think by state by state, the states can still decide whether or not to do it. But either way, not very pro-trans. He enlisted, what is it called? The Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a hate group, an anti-LGBT hate group that advocates for eugenics of trans people, for trans people to be sterilized, LGBT people to undergo, for gay sex to be criminalized, all those things. Horrible shit, literal hate group. He has enlisted that hate group to be advisory, to be like an advisory thing on his administration. He's been openly, outright anti-trans, him and his administration. So let's hear from Blaire White how actually Trump isn't that bad.
Do you want to be in the video? You want to be in the video?
That is a cute dog, to be fair.
Okay, you look really uncomfortable. Okay, let's see if Angela wants to be in it. Oh, now she's mad. No, stop! Jeez, leave him alone. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. So today's video is on a topic that you guys...
Hey, listen. That dog is cute. I know you all hate Blaire White. Don't shit talk the dog, okay? The dog didn't choose to be owned by Blaire White. The cat didn't choose to be owned by Blaire White, okay? That is victim blaming. Do not shit talk the animals, okay? Chill out. The dog is ugly? Wow, I hate my audience. Not really, I love you
all the time. And I've definitely dragged my feet a little bit in doing it, not because I've been pessimistic about politics. I feel like I've more so been nihilistic about politics, which is crazy because I feel like I used to always say nihilism was like intellectual laziness and just feeling like everything sucks is just an excuse to not talk about fixing things. But I relate to it now. Lately, especially, I felt like everything political just sucks and I can't add to it. But this is something I can't.
Okay, anyone who claims they're not political or that they try to avoid politics, they've been avoiding politics lately, and makes content like Blaire White does is lying their fucking ass off. Don't believe them, okay? Blaire White's content, for the most part, is overtly political, usually pushing some kind of soft anti-trans message, particularly the the content involving like trans trenders and trans predators. Maybe not so much that her recent like massive boost in growth she's gotten from covering the current like drama with like the beauty community and I don't even know. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about the makeup community, okay? But nonetheless, it's a very popular topic, so her covering it has gained her a significant amount of support and subscribers and viewers and what have you. So no, she is still very political. She's not like nihilistic towards politics. Her content is openly political. She pursues political topics whether she realizes it or not.
Can't add to. So let's talk about Trump and the trans community.
Hey, this video feels a little quiet to me. Is it too quiet for you guys? Let me know.
Disclaimer, this is a video that you're probably not going to grasp my full opinion unless you watch the entire thing. This is one of those videos that I also want to do kind of chronological, like I want to start.
Don't worry, Blaire. We're watching it all.
At the beginning of the Trump presidency until now and discuss everything. So before we do this very deep dive, I am so excited to announce that this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN. If you don't know what a VPN is...
Oh, brother. Okay. Well, can't wait. I'm going to skip the fucking sponsorship, but I cannot wait for dumbass Blaire White fans in my comments to say, you didn't watch the whole video because I skipped the fucking sponsorship. God, Blaire White fans are some of the dumbest people I've ever fucking seen.
Check them out. Okay, so Trump and the trans community. I really want to get into how Trump, I would imagine, and I speculate how he actually feels about transgender people. I'll get into that. But first, we're going to get into what has been really frustrating for me the entire presidency, which has been...
All right, I'm sorry. We're speeding the video up 0.25 speed, okay? She's a very slow talker, okay?
I feel like transgenderism by both sides has been used as a political football whenever it's convenient. And I stand by what I have always said, which is that transgenderism is not to be politicized. It is to be medicalized. It is to be treated.
Excuse me? Blaire, you fucking idiot. Who's politicizing being transgender? The left fights for transgender people to have access to the medicalized. We'll get into the medicalized thing in a second. It's fucking stupid. But the left has fought incessantly, broadly speaking, so that transgender people can live their lives, not be in danger of being killed or discriminated against or having their rights taken away, so that they have access to the things they need to have access to in order to live their lives and, get whatever they need, like being able to transition, all that kind of stuff. The right has gone out of their way and built a platform and built an entire empire on attacking LGBT people, particularly trans people, and sort of use and elicit the already existing feeling of disgust and hatred that the average bigot has for trans people, and to funnel that into content or into support, into anti-trans support. The right are the ones that are making it like political, like a political debate. The left from the start has been, well, for the most part, has been trying to fight so that trans people can just kind of do their thing, live their life, get what they want to do. It's the right that's trying to stop that. So, no, it's not playing political football and politicizing trans people to see the right try to take away trans people's rights, and for the left in response to try to preserve them. That's not political football. That's just doing the right thing. Imagine, oh my god, imagine if YouTube existed back during like the 1700s. Can you imagine if back during like the Civil War, back when like slavery was like getting abolished, if like YouTube existed and you had like some like if you had like this, oh god, this is going to be a really problematic comparison, never mind. If you had this like already freed ex-slave person who had a YouTube channel like Blaire White and made videos like Blaire White does about how actually black people are criminals and terrible and aren't really human and do deserve to be enslaved, and then she made a video talking about how actually the South, the Union, the Confederacy, is actually not anti-black. They aren't anti-black at all. This is the truth about the Confederacy and black people. That would be the name of the video. And Blaire Black or whatever is making her video, and she explains, I really don't like how the left and the right have argued and been playing political football with black people, okay? Why are they politicizing the topic of black people? Like, that would be the equivalent here, or the topic of slavery or whatever. That would be the, that would be the comparison there. That would be the equivalent in this alternate universe. That would actually be hilarious, like an absolutely hilarious alternate universe, like some Black Mirror type shit or something. Kinda? Would that be something? I guess that's kind of like Black Mirror, I suppose. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that everything is political, but the argument that people are playing political football with a very with what is more or less like the current like civil rights like stride at the moment, like the most relevant besides maybe like with BLM, like to try to claim that that like this is being played as political football is just fucking ridiculous. It's so dumb. But let's get into the transgenderism should be medicalized. So for starters, being trans is not inherently a medical issue. It's just not. The medical community doesn't even view it that way. Transgenderism is a mode of identity. It's as simple as that. You are to be transgender is based around entirely your identity, your expression, all of that kind of stuff. Gender dysphoria, which may or may not be a reason why you decide to identify as something other than the gender you were assigned at birth, is medical. Gender dysphoria is a medical and psychological condition, which is already medicalized. And that's fine. That's completely okay. So what Blaire means when she says transgenderism needs to be medicalized, it means she's a true scum. She's a trans medicalist. She's a true scum. She thinks that you need to have dysphoria to be trans. If you don't, then that's bad. Anybody who claims that they're trans but doesn't have dysphoria is a liar. They're infiltrating the trans community, and they need to be kicked out. They need to be systematically hunted down and shamed until they no longer identify as trans anymore. That's what Blaire White does. That's her entire platform. That's what she dedicates herself to, and what she's grown her entire channel on. That's all she does. And that's what she advocates for. That's what she means when she says transgenderism needs to be medicalized. That's what that means.
As a medical issue, not a political talking point. So you can imagine the past 4 years have been a little bit frustrating for me. What I've noticed since 2016 is that every 6 months or so, there's some new, very scary sounding, very shocking trans headline. And it is always something to the effect of all of our rights are being stripped, our lives are in danger.
Let's read these. The truth about Trump and from CBS News. Controversial Trump administration ban on transgender troops goes into effect. Trump administration erases transgender civil rights protections in healthcare. This is true. HRC responds to the Trump administration's decision to attack transgender youth. That did happen. Transgender could be defined out of existence under Trump administration, a thing that they are actively trying to do. Okay, these are things that have happened. They're being reported by reputable news outlets. Let's see what your response is, Blaire.
And the trans community, like I said, every 6 months because of these stories, just goes into complete hysteria and panic mode. And it actually started with the election itself. On the day of the election, there was a story ran that after he won, it was either 8 or 10 transgender children committed suicide. Huge trans influencers like Gigi Gorgeous and really every single other one made videos about it, ran with it like it was true. 8 transgender.
Oh my God. What a good way to strawman the entire argument that Trump is like a transphobic guy by saying, oh, well, hey, some YouTubers claimed that some YouTubers and news outlets reported that 8 transgender people committed suicide after Trump was elected a day later. But guess what? Transgender people commit suicide a lot anyway. So how can you really know if it was because of Trump, or even maybe it would be expected statistically anyway? What a really weak argument to attack. I'll give her this. That is a weak argument in favor of Trump being transphobic, I suppose. Although, when we consider the context of what we know now, not so much. Trump has done a lot more now, but at the time, maybe this seemed like a pretty weak attack. Maybe.
Kids had committed suicide. I was, like, my stomach, I just got goosebumps, like my stomach turned.
And it was actually scary even for me. The trans community was rightfully horrified because obviously
oh, really?
True, that's an insane, horrible tragedy. The problem is that it was 100 1,000% false. It was
Oh.
so false that GLAAD had to come out a few days later and say that we shouldn't be spreading that because it's completely unverified.
Stop sharing news that trans teen suicides spiked post-election. It's not just wrong, but dangerous to LGBT youth. Yeah, I agree with this. It's probably not good to spread information, assuming that is misinformation, which it seems to be. But this is probably the most cherry-picked, weak argument against Trump being transphobic I've ever seen. The idea that, like, even the number, like, oh yeah, 8 transgender kids killed themselves after Trump was elected, like, that's serious and that's bad and everything, but there is much more compelling evidence, especially now, that Trump is transphobic than this. I guess she is starting chronologically, but I'm excited to see what her defenses are against things like the military ban, the rollback of healthcare, the what was it called? Having freedom Alliance Defending Freedom, an anti-trans, anti-LGBT hate group, as like a consultant for his administration. I'm really excited. Really excited to see how she tries to defend that.
Verified and completely untrue. In fact, it was one verified Twitter user that said it and said they had a private source confirming it, and suddenly it was being reported as fact. So to me, that was the beginning of the politicization of trans issues in the last 4 years, was that right there in the beginning. So let's jump.
The beginning of the politicization of trans people in the last 4 years. Why do I cover Why do I cover the topic of transgender stuff so much? I really do. I cover the topic of transgender issues incessantly, like constantly. It's like, at least I don't think I go a single stream without at least mentioning transgender rights. I do it a lot. Now, a lot of people think it's because maybe I have like a really strong emotional attachment to the issue. Maybe it's because I'm actually an egg, and so I talk about trans stuff a lot as like a coping mechanism or something. I don't know, like it's a sign that I'm an egg or something. Some people say it's because someone's saying it's my kink. Some people say it's because I'm like trying to be like one of the good cis people. I don't know. There's a big list of things that people like to propose as a reason why I cover trans topics so much. I'm going to be completely open with you guys and tell you exactly why I cover these topics as much as I do right now. 1, it's a really relevant topic within all political spaces at the moment. And there's a lot of people who are wrong about it. There's not a lot of people who are right about it. The data is set in stone. I have access to it. And it's an easy topic for me to argue. It's low-hanging fruit to me, generally. Like, arguing for the validity of trans people, because, you know, the validity of trans people is backed up scientifically, medically, sociologically, psychologically, all of that kind of stuff. The data is out. The studies are out. It's easy to back up all of my opinions on it. It's easy, low-hanging fruit. The problem is, it's not as low-hanging as you would think, because people have been spreading the same, just repetitive, easy-to-debunk lies about transgender people for the last few decades. I would argue that trans people have been politicized as far back as Stonewall. When the Stonewall riots, or that whole LGBT acceptance movement, was started by 2 trans women and co-opted because the gays, the lesbians, bisexual people, pansexual people, all of that, thought that transgender people were too weird to make generally accepted in society, so they excluded them from the movement. And they were thrown back decades in terms of acceptance. For a long time, in basically all media, on TV and movies, it was completely socially acceptable to shit on trans people. Completely. You guys remember the first Ace Ventura movie? There was not any controversy around the fact that an entire story beat of that the entire plot of that movie is the villain is a trans woman who tricks Ace Ventura, and he has sex with her or makes out with her or whatever. I don't remember exactly. And then he freaks out, and there's like an extended scene where he's like throwing up and like scratching his throat, and he's like crying, curled up in the shower after he finds out the woman he made out with was actually trans, or to him, a man. I would argue, as long as those things have been socially acceptable, transgenderism has been politicized. That's why I cover these topics. Partly, I do have an emotional attachment to it. I care about trans people. I do care about trans people. I am friends with trans people. I'll admit I have an emotional attachment to the issue. But I mostly talk about it because reactionaries are wrong about it. And that misinformation is everywhere. So, no. It's not just now getting politicized for the last 4 years. It's been politicized for a long time, Blaire. A long time.
Jump forward to 2017, the Trump military ban, trans military ban. So this was the beginning of actual policy decisions being made by the administration about trans people. I understand the argument in which it is not ideal for trans people to serve in certain capacities. The front lines, very specific example. I think the reliance on trans-specific medication, hormones obviously, and the fact that often they are placed in countries where they're very vulnerable because they are trans. Like, think about, I don't know, like me fighting in Iran. Like what? Like obviously in countries where it's illegal.
Isn't it? Wait, if you're trans in Iran, you're fine. Don't they make gay dudes transition into trans women? Because you're not allowed to be gay, but you can be trans? I'm pretty sure it's specifically Iran. The example she brought up is where they force gay people to transition. Also, mind you, yes, she is defending the trans military ban, but I think she's going to try to steel man the left here in a second, I hope, at least. So, this may sound like an intuitive, opinion to come to that transgender people aren't fit to serve on the front lines. Hey, guys. Doesn't matter. You do realize that the military already has their own independent psychological, physiological, all of those things, evaluation of their soldiers, right? If there's a trans person who happens to be incapable of fighting in the military, they won't be able to, because their independent psychological and physiological tests and trials, they won't pass them. Just like any cis person who isn't capable of doing it won't pass them. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like that America goes overseas and kills brown people, air drones striking children and what have you. That's terrible. But that's not why the trans military ban is bad. The trans military ban is bad because, for one, most jobs in the military aren't frontline combat. The vast majority of jobs in the military are things like graphic designers, engineers, pilots, programmers, all that kind of stuff. Right now, the majority, at least from what I have heard, from both news stories as well as people that I know that are somewhat close to the military, that are in the military and whatnot. A lot of the most relevant battles, I guess you could say, or wars happening right now, or conflicts happening right now, are happening over the internet. Like hackings, cyber crimes, things like that. There's a lot of countries out there that are trying to hack into other countries, that are trying to that are employing hacking groups to try and rob banks and whatnot from us and other countries as well. This is a thing that's happening right now. Do you think transgender people are incapable of filling these jobs? Of course not. Trump banned trans people from the military. Luna's crying her ass off. Trump banned trans people from the military because he hates them. He thinks they're deranged. He thinks they're weird. He's principally opposed to their existence. And this was the first of many measures he wanted to try to take away their right to do certain things, or their privilege, because technically serving in the military is a privilege. This is more or less the equivalent of back when gay people weren't allowed in the military and they did don't ask, don't tell. Oh yeah, we won't ask you, you don't tell, just keep it a secret, you won't get discharged, but if we find out you're gay, you won't get discharged, right? That is not acceptance of trans people. In no way can you even somewhat try to twist that into being acceptance of trans people. I'm sorry, it's not how it works.
Illegal or dangerous, that can compromise the effectiveness of certain operations by having a trans person in the mix. I did feel, however, that banning them under any and every capacity, we're talking cooks, we're talking medics and doctors and, coders. There are a lot of positions in the military that are not directly on the front lines fighting. In fact, the overwhelming majority of them are not. And I just can't think of a reason why a trans person couldn't be like a cook or if
Yeah.
you're a talented nurse. You know, having said all
Yeah.
that, there is something to be said for the fact that
Hey, they can even fight on the front lines if their physiological and psychological exams say they can. Simple as that. Let's hear her. Let's hear her defend Trump, though.
the military denies people joining for a lot of reasons, and a lot of those reasons may even seem silly. Like, if you have even the slightest bit of anxiety, you cannot be in the military. If you have not great eyesight, you cannot be in the military.
Okay.
If you have gauges in your ears, tattoos in certain places, if you are overweight,
Okay.
depression, OCD,
Okay.
none of those things you can join the military with. They will
Okay.
deny you. And so to
Okay.
me, thinking, you know, I understand how crippling gender dysphoria is, so
This doesn't matter. This sort of highlights how little she knows about this topic when, whether you're cis or trans, you go through an evaluation of your mental health and your physical health. And if you just aren't physically fit or mentally fit to be in the military, they don't let you in. No changes need to be made. Trump banned all trans people, whether they're in good mental and physical health or not. As it stood today, or not today, but before the ban, there weren't any like cripplingly suicidal, ultra dysphoric trans people that were getting into the military. That's not how it works. Wrong. The military has eye corrective surgeries for troops who can't see well. That's true. Depending on what your affliction is, the military will pay for your treatment because they prefer not to discharge you. They don't want you discharged. That pause face shows her disgust. It's a funny pause face.
Actually do understand the argument that that would be something that would hurt the effectiveness of people in the military. So, you know, I feel like if someone were to pay me to debate both sides, like, Blaire, here's, I don't know, $500, like, debate why trans people should be allowed in the military indefinitely, I could do that. If someone was like, Blaire, here's $500 to debate why they shouldn't.
Also, yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on this. The military was 1,100% ready to let my depressed, anxious ass join. Yes, Possum, that is true. Sometimes people do get to the military and they don't really give a fuck. It depends. It's you know. Either way, though, they do have like a standard that you have to meet, regardless of whether or not you're trans or gay or anything like that. Trump broadly banning all trans people was just the first thing he could do to try to like hurt the trans community. That's all he wanted to do. Like, this isn't controversial, or at least it shouldn't be a controversial statement.
Never be in. I could probably do that too. It's very much a gray area of a topic, but honestly, I felt like it was way too sweeping, like I said. So let's jump to early 2018. The next big trans headline was that Trump was forcing the CDC to ban the word transgender from any and all documents. There are other words allegedly being banned, but this is obviously about the trans stuff. This was completely fake, like 110% fake. This did not happen.
Let's see. So some tabloid articles reported that Trump had the CDC ban transgender. Ironically, none of the claims that she's made here that she said they're fake or like they didn't happen, I've ever like repeated or even known about. I never heard about the like 8 trans kids killing themselves after Trump got elected. I heard about the military ban, which she conceded, I believe, that it was like bad and not okay, but also it kind of is because she has to do the, you know, she has to be anti-trans or like pro-Trump or whatever, or pro-Trump or whatever. And then now she's bringing up this Trump banning the CDC from using the word transgender. Okay. So this is from glma.org. Health Professionals Advancing LGBTQ Equality. GLMA statement on transgender ban at CDC. On December 16th, the Washington Post broke a story revealing officials at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention were given a list of 7 prohibited words or phrases by the Trump administration. These words were fetus, vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, evidence-based, science-based, and transgender. GLMA President Gal Meyer, MD, MS, and GLMA Executive Director Hector Vargas, JD, issued the following statement in response. We are deeply troubled and dismayed, but not surprised that the Trump administration has banned the CDC from using certain words, including the words evidence-based and transgender. In doing so, this administration is limiting the effectiveness of the CDC's science-based public health mission and, once again, playing politics with the health and lives of transgender individuals. Ironic. It seems like it's the Trump administration and the right playing politics with the lives of transgender people. Who would have thought? This last year, the Trump administration has continually demonstrated that it is no ally of the transgender community, nor the entire LGBTQ community. Mind you, this is these are statements from GLMA, not the CDC. So this could just be them being mistaken. I have no idea. This is updated 1/17/2018. So we'll see. We'll finish this up, and this is the first thing that came up when I searched Trump bans transgender CDC. Okay. This past year, Trump there's no ally of the transgender community nor the entire LGBT community by issuing policy to ban transgender individuals in the military, rescinding protection guidelines for transgender students in schools. Forgot about that one. Eliminating gender identity questions from surveys of older Americans, that also happened, and fighting gender identity, non-discrimination regulations in healthcare, and he even doubled and tripled down on that later. This directive is yet another attack on transgender individuals. In response to this directive, GLMA has sent a letter to the CDC director, Brenda Fitzgerald, MD, calling on her to issue a statement that empathetically and unequivocally states the CDC will continue to use science-based approaches to improve the health and well-being of the full diversity in American people, including transgender individuals. Nothing short of a clear, strong statement to this effect will fully absolve any doubts regarding the inclusion of transgender people in communities that are served under the mission of the CDC. Updated 1/17/2018. At the beginning of 2018, GLMA received the following response from CDC Director Brenda Fitzgerald, MD. The letter was sent out, said, "Thank you for your letter regarding media reports alleging that our agency is banned from using certain words in our budget documents. As I have stated, the CDC staff, partners, and media, there are no banned words at the CDC. And we will continue to talk about all of our important public health programs. CDC has long-standing history of making public health decisions based on the best available science. So it turns out it's not true, and we'll continue to do so as part of our commitment to provide for the common defense of the country against health threats, science, blah, blah, blah. CDC remains committed to our health." So is this just like a request from the Trump? So it turns out it was just like a request from the Trump administration. Now, sure, the Trump administration didn't ban the CDC from using these words, but if nonetheless the Trump administration did at least request or suggest that the CDC ban the words fetus, vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, evidence-based, science-based, and transgender from their vocabularies, even if it wasn't a ban, kind of reflects badly on the Trump administration, don't you think? Maybe just a little bit. Maybe just a little.
CNN has come out and said this did not happen, but yet it was a viral story that every trans influencer and every person that the trans community looks to as one of our defenders ran with. And the problem with running...
Hey, I didn't. Oh, okay, I can't. The cat is just screaming her ass off. What do you want? Are you in here now? Is that what's happening? Pop my hip. Yeah, it's a good kitty. That's a good kitty. Here. You can chill out right there, kitty. You can just have a seat, all right? What are you gonna do? You gonna run around? You gonna make a fuss while I'm trying to stream? Oh, she's hiding in my legs. She wants my legs because they're warm. She likes being warm. Okay. Enough kitty. You guys have seen enough kitty. Oh, she totally wants out now. She begged for me to let her in, and now she wants out. All right, she can leave whenever she wants now. Okay. All right. What was I saying before? Oh, yeah. No, I don't give a shit if, like, there was a news story that wasn't fully confirmed that was flying around, and a few trans influencers, by that she means, like, YouTubers and Twitter users, spread it around like it was real. Like, I don't care. Like, this wasn't... Like, this is irrelevant. There are actual bad things that the Trump administration has done to try to hurt the trans community. I don't care if there are rumors about other things that he did that were fake. It's not how it works. You do realize that while North Korea is terrible, there are people who actually... This is the same argument Tankies used to defend North Korea, actually. North Korea is terrible, but there are a lot of lies about North Korea out there. Like, for example, that North Korea claims that they found the first ever unicorn. Wasn't true. Completely made up story. Completely fabricated. Not real. And yet... even actual mainstream news outlets spread that around, claiming that North Korea said that they'd found the first ever unicorn, like a unicorn skeleton or whatever. Now, despite this, obviously North Korea is bad, but by the same logic, because lies have been spread about a particular place, group, or person, that means there is no very justifiable evidence against the character of said person, place, or thing. That's more or less the comparison here. Unicorns exist in North Korea and China. You can buy one. Amazing.
With fake stories is that the fake story will get a lot of attention up front, but the correction will get maybe 1/10 of the attention. So I think there are probably a lot of people, maybe even some of you guys, let me know in the comments, who still think that the word transgender is banned from the CDC documents. No, it just never happened. Ask CNN, ask anyone. Like, it didn't happen. Next up, jump to fall 2018. And this time, the big trans everyone be scared headline was that trans people would no longer exist under law. This one came right before midterms because I think if you really pay attention, you'll notice.
What? What are you talking about? Hold on, is my stream still live on YouTube? Because Restream's saying it's not connected anymore. It still says it's live. Is it like frozen? Is it? Oh no, we're good. It still says it's live. 703 viewers on YouTube. God damn. God damn. That's a lot.
That the most salacious, fear-mongering stories, especially as it relates to certain minority groups, will always come around elections. We have Steph Signati doing a video that got hundreds of thousands of views saying trans people will no longer exist, and the gist of it was that trans people would no longer be able to change their gender legally as it pertains to certain documents like birth certificates, driver's license, social security, all the...
Yes, that is an attack on transgender people. Saying they're being like legally defined out of existence by the law is a bit hyperbolic, although it's pretty obvious what the intention is from the Trump administration in doing that. Regardless, still not good. This isn't a defense of Trump. This is not making Trump look good, Blaire.
Those are things that I changed before 2018, but I know an immense amount of people in all states who have changed it since then. This literally just never happened. It just wasn't a thing. I can get into the nitty gritty, but all you need to know is it didn't happen. But the entirety of the trans community was believing that it did, and all of our influencers
I don't care.
that it was true. Very sad. And the problem is that every single time that one of these stories comes out saying that it's the end of trans people, right? Like, I'll know it comes out because my DM is just flooded with young trans people scared and asking me for help and guidance and saying, like, can you please help? Like, it really does set the community into an emotional uproar. It does. So let's jump to something recent. Last month, Pride Month.
Really? Something good? Okay.
Came out and the new headline was that Trump was removing all healthcare.
This is true. If she tries to claim that this isn't real, this isn't true. Or she's going to try to like straw man what the actual thing is. What Trump did was he repealed legislation that would make it so that transgender people were included under the same civil rights protections as like black people or what have you, right? So that like doctors, particularly when it comes to healthcare, so that doctors and certain healthcare providers cannot just deny trans people or LGBT people healthcare due to the fact that they're trans. Now, this was done on a federal level, not on like a state level. So individual states can still have their own rules about it, but he rolled it back on a federal level, which does not make him look good.
For all trans people. That was the big thing, right? So this hit during Pride Month, and not just any Pride Month. It hit during, obviously, June, and even now, July, about to be August. It's a very emotionally heightened time as it pertains to social issues, everything happening in the world, obviously. Like, this type of headline is going to really set people off. The problem is that, again, this didn't happen. I debunked it in an article in the Post Millennial. You can go read that and get every single detail.
I already debunked that debunk. Only it was this dude named The Offensive T-Slur. He's a transgender guy on YouTube from, like, I don't know, some fucking Scandinavian country who made a video trying to debunk the claim that Trump had rolled back protections for trans people. No. This happened. Let's look at what's on screen here. The claim. The Trump administration has overturned an Obama-era protection for transgender people in healthcare. This will lead to transgender people being denied healthcare for not only elective surgeries relating to transition, but also for serious health conditions. The truth. The transgender protection that everyone is hysterical about this doesn't sound like something that a pro-trans or just like insanely right-wing biased thing would say. Let's read this and think about what's this sound like. The transgender protection that everyone is hysterical about being revoked was ruled against in court before Trump was even president. It was never law. Therefore, it is impossible for the Trump administration to revoke it. The mandate was struck down in 2016 before Trump was inaugurated, which means Obama was still president. In December 2016, Judge Reed O'Connor in Texas, appointed by George W. Bush, railed against the mandate, saying the following: the rule defines sex bias to include discrimination on the basis of gender identity and termination of pregnancy. That's not true. This is just like, I don't know what website she's citing here. By the way that it's like worded, it sounds really, really right-wing biased, but it is it has been overwhelmingly reported. It is not like debated outside of fucking right-wing circles that no, Trump absolutely did revoke protections federally for healthcare people to not be allowed to reject LGBT people, particularly trans people, from receiving any type of medical care, because like a doctor can just choose not to, right? Like any type of medical professional, because they don't want to, because they choose not to. Now, granted, this was federally. On a state level, those states can still, deny that being repealed, but regardless, that's what happened. That's just what happened.
But the long and short of it is that these protections that were supposedly being repealed that protected trans people were never actually set in place. They were actually proposed and then struck down before Trump ever took office. Like, this isn't even a defense of Trump. This isn't even a defense of anything. This is just literally the media emotionally manipulating trans people and people who care about trans people into thinking something is happening when it's really not. These protections were struck down in court before he was president. How can
Hey, literally every reputable mainstream news source was reporting this. Blaire. So by that link Blaire cited herself. Wait, did she write that? I wouldn't be surprised if she wrote that. Regardless, though, I would like you to point to a single article in which, I don't know, CNN or CBS, whatever, any fucking news station or whatever, reported that what had happened was how you worded it. I can't turn it up anymore, guys. It cannot get louder. It cannot get louder. It is physically impossible for me to make the video any louder, okay? Regardless, she did write it. Wait, she wrote that article? The article that she just cited, she wrote it. Of course she did. Of course. Wait, why am I surprised? No, of course she did. Regardless, though, wait. Oh my god, none of you guys told me the cat knocked over my floodlight. The cat knocked over my fucking floodlight, so it's not shining on the wall anymore. She's being a bitch today. Can you just go lay down or something? Please. I can't pet you right now. I'm trying to make a video. God damn, kitty. Give the baby attention. She doesn't want attention. She just wants to bitch. If I try to give her attention right now, she'd run away. Anyone who has cats would know. Alright, regardless. Yeah, find me... Hey, listen. If you're so confident that this didn't happen, find some CNN article or something where they report that this happened and report that reporter or that writer to the higher-ups at CNN. They'll get fucking fired. You know that's the thing that happens, right? These mainstream news outlets aren't allowed to knowingly publish actual fake news. These mainstream news outlets aren't actually allowed to publish actual fake news. It's illegal. Or not illegal, but it's against their rules. They'll fire you if you do. So, it's that simple. Blaire, if you're so confident that's actually what happened, go ahead and report those writers that lied and created fake news. It's that simple. You can do it.
He repealed something that never was put in place. It doesn't make sense. But it was too perfect of a storm to come out during Pride Month, one of the craziest Pride months ever, obviously, 2020. And people were just not, and they might still not, be prepared to hear or ready to accept that that wasn't the whole truth. Or really, it wasn't the truth at all. Healthcare, as it pertains to trans people, is exactly the same as it was last year, the year before that, the year before that. But once again, the emotions of the trans community and the people who care about us and the clicks that we provide is just way too great for the media to pass up. Doesn't really matter if it's not true. They're still going to run with it. And it sucks.
Excuse me.
So let's get into how Trump feels about trans people. Now, anyone can only speculate. Like, no one knows how someone really feels, right? My gut and everything I've seen over the past 4 years, which, keep in mind, I am very plugged into trans issues. Obviously, it's my career, it's my life. Like, I've watched every news story coming out about trans people since he took office. My gut is that he probably doesn't really know what transgenderism is, at least not to the extent for which it exists in 2020, like what people think of it.
I would not be surprised if Trump's opinion on transgender people was they're those degenerate, weird freaks like Caitlyn Jenner, and that's it. That's probably what Trump's opinion on transgender people is. Saying he doesn't understand transgender people or what have you is not an argument that he's not a bigot. In fact, saying that someone doesn't understand trans people, I would argue, is even more evidence that they're a bigot. Because bigotry, at the end of the day, is rooted in two things: hatred and lack of understanding. Obliviousness, one might say. So that is not a defense of Trump, if that's what she's going for. Maybe that's not the way that she's trying to frame it, but this comes off, and based on most of her content, as a defense of Trump.
But now, what likely is the case is that transgenderism is such a culture war hot button issue that I feel that the instance of like,
oh, she voted Trump? I mean, I'm not surprised. Is she really just trying to justify her vote? I mean, that makes sense.
The trans military ban, I feel like he could have won his whole presidency without doing that and none of his base would have complained. But it was red meat to the segment of his base that maybe does feel a certain way about trans people. And so I feel that he did that partly, at least, because it gave his base something that they could say, oh, good job on. I don't think he had to do that. I feel like it was unnecessary, 110%. Like, call me pessimistic, but I really don't feel that those in the media and in politics have like a true, like, genuine care, and that includes Trump, like a genuine care about the trans issue. I think for most people, whether it be Trump, whether it be the media, whether it be all the talking.
What the fuck is she talking about? Sorry, sometimes I just like look at my chat and I phase out, especially when I'm watching a Blaire White video, because everything she's saying is so vapid and it just doesn't make any sense to me. Well, sorry, what were you saying, Blaire? Sorry.
Has and figureheads that are coming up in your mind right now. I think it's just one of those things that is simply another issue to battle on and virtue signal about for both sides. I think that Trump has a base that wants to be fed certain lines about the transgender topic, and he will occasionally feed them that, and I think that that's really the extent of how he feels. I find that some people on the right have a misconception that transgenderism is an invention of the political left or a consequence of gender studies rather than a phenomenon that has been around for a very long time, if not forever, and likely isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and it is real people.
All right, so this is her like trying to correct misconceptions the right has about Trump or about transgender people and how actually she's one of the good ones because, hey, look at me, I'm pretty. Look at me, I have dysphoria. It's medically backed up, what have you. Here, we've seen enough. Regardless, though, I'm going to go ahead and give my review of that video. Here's my opinion. Blaire would face massive amounts of criticism and hate from her own audience if she were ever to come out and say that she no longer supports Trump and is no longer a conservative. Look what happened to Hunter Avallone after he made his video, where he told his story. He lost a lot of supporters. He lost a fair amount of subscribers. A lot of his videos got massively downvoted. But he changed for the better, and from the looks of it, he's a lot happier with his life now, and I'm happy for him. There are not a lot of large public figures who are YouTubers who feel comfortable doing that sort of thing. I feel like Blaire is probably in a position now, mind you, there are way more examples of Trump attacking the trans community as well as his administration. Like, she didn't even get into Trump's administration. Holy fuck, the people that he appointed. Regardless, though, Blaire White has her audience. She has her niche that she has to make content for, and if she turns her back on that niche, on that like right-wing, pro-Trump, red-blooded conservative American trans woman, if she turns her back on that niche, she's going to get attacked for it. Just like Hunter was. Hunter was known as like the guy you love to hate, the conservative guy you love to hate, because he's all like, facts don't care about your feelings and very condescending with his character, when in reality he's a super nice guy, which I can confirm. But Blaire has her brand, a brand that she's afraid to break or ruin. It's as simple as that. With that said, that's all.